Welcome to The Late Show. We're broadcasting here in the Revelation TV studios, live from London. It's an interactive program. You can join us by the live at revelationtv.com and the text number which you will see popping up on your screen. It is a very much a live and fast-moving day. Thursday, the 9th of October, 2 days after the second anniversary of October the 7th. The terrible, wicked atrocities of Hamas. Now, we're standing on the threshold of a ceasefire and an end to the war. What I would describe as a victory over Hamas. Israel's war against Hamas. It's not Israel's war against Gaza. And we're talking very soon about the peace process. President Trump has put a lot of pressure on Hamas and the Arab nations and Turkey and Egypt to bring about a ceasefire with Israel. Israel has agreed to the terms of the ceasefire. Hamas has been brought dragging and screaming to the table, and the question now is, what form will that peace process take? And I'll introduce my co-presenter in a minute, but I'll just say this, that the peace process has to be more than just a discussion about Israel and what Israel does and how Israel is oppressing Palestinians. The peace process should encompass all the nations of the world, the United Nations, the NGOs, the world's media, world governments. They have to act responsibly in a peace process, because hitherto, they have stoked up the wars in the Middle East. And our role here on Revelation TV is to bring a biblical perspective. And I thought a great scripture to start with is in Psalm 122. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go to the house of the Lord. Our feet have been standing within your gates, O Jerusalem. It's a wonderful Psalm 122. I'll never forget being in Cordoba and seeing the old synagogue, 700 years old, the city where, Moses Maimonides lived. And within that synagogue, reading in Hebrew these very words, I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of the Lord. But if we read further down, this is the key to the peace process, and it's prayer. In verse 6, pray for the peace of Jerusalem. May they prosper who love you. Peace be within your walls, a prosperity within your palaces. And then going back to verse 2, our feet have been standing within your gates, O Jerusalem. And we feel very much that that's our role here at Revelation TV, that we are watchmen on the gates. We are standing in the gates. It is holy ground. Who shall ascend to the hill of the Lord? He who has clean hands and a pure heart. This is the source of peace, and this is what we pray for as the world powers start talking about the peace process. And that is my introduction, Mandy Johnson, and it's great that you can join me, because you really are an expert on that region of the world. So as we discuss ceasefires, and proposals and points in the peace process, we need your input.
Oh, bless you, Tim. It's great to be here on such a momentous occasion when we truly hope that this peace that has been declared will come to fruition. And your introduction was absolutely spot on, as always. And I've been to Jerusalem once only, and I'm looking forward to the next visit.
Which we will be going on together in a few weeks' time.
In November with the viewers who've signed up to go. But near the Kotel, the Wailing Wall, the Western Wall, is exactly that Psalm 122 verse 6. Pray for the peace of Jerusalem. And really, Jerusalem isn't just the city of Jerusalem, it's symbolic. It's God's city, as the beginning of the chapter 122 says. It's symbolic of God's people, Israel. God's people,
and
Israel.
of the whole earth. So if you're praying for the peace of Jerusalem, you're praying for peace on earth.
Exactly. And really the whole Bible is Israel focused, and we must remember that. And of course, all the passages in the Bible, every story in the Bible is interlinked. And so we go back to Genesis chapter 12, verse 3, that says, I will bless those who bless you. And all the most English, nearly all English translations say, and those who curse you, I will curse. In the Hebrew, it actually says, and those who speak lightly of you, I will curse. So we mustn't even have contempt for Israel. But you quite rightly pointed out that the United Nations and the BDS movement, that's boycott, divestment and sanctions, all of these movements and organizations.
And all the apologists for Hamas and all of this globalizing of the Intifada, they are complicit in the suffering in Gaza.
Yeah, the media are just as culpable as the politicians who have been intransigent and who have really been very cowardly, I would say, actually, very cowardly.
Yeah.
Israel, Benjamin Netanyahu at the helm, has had to fight on so many fronts, not just the military fronts.
7 fronts militarily.
But literally surrounded, but also the media fronts, the politicians, the United Nations, all these dreadful organizations that are just, I think some of them are evil, some of them are deluded.
Yeah. So, hopefully we're going to sort of disambiguate, all of the confusion. And we're going to start with a little summary of the previous ceasefires. We'll put it up on the screen. You might not see it, but it's on a spreadsheet. And the first one, Mandy, was in 2023, the 22nd of November. Do you want to just read out?
Yes, I remember that. So at the time, there was a temporary ceasefire back in November 23. So that was 6 weeks after the massacre and the abduction of 251 hostages. That was mediated by Qatar, Egypt, and the US. And the terms were a 4-day pause in hostilities, release of 50 Israeli hostages, and 150 Palestinian prisoners.
And if we remember, they did these grandstanding releases, didn't they? And humiliated the hostages.
Yeah, in the beginning, it was done at the very, very first ones in November.
Oh, that's
white ambulances,
that's right. The Red Cross
at night, the very, very first ones. Afterwards,
but by the way, that broke down when Hamas launched rockets before the extension was confirmed. And then in late November 2023, they had extensions and conditional truce negotiations.
And the agreement allowed extension of that truce. 1 day per additional 10 hostages released, and that was painful to watch. So for those who remember, every single Saturday we'd be switching on our televisions to watch, and they made such a show of it.
And humiliated, and the last one they even kept in the car 2 Israeli hostages to actually witness, not knowing whether they were going to be released or not, to witness others being released.
And then they also had these gross posters of Netanyahu dressed as a vampire with blood dripping down his teeth.
By the way, surprise, surprise, Hamas launched rockets. They claimed that Israel refused to extend the terms, but then Israel in response resumed the air raids. I don't know whether many people realise that Hamas are not very reliable when it comes to ceasefires.
No, and in fact, sometimes when they would launch their rockets, the rockets would not reach the destinations in Israel. They would land in Gaza, within Gaza. The very first one was the Al Ahli hospital, within days of the massacre.
It was launched by Islamic Jihad, I think, that one. Yeah.
And the BBC verified it with their BBC Verify and said it was the Israelis that had attacked a hospital.
Well, not only, they poured fuel on the fire. It was a rocket that hit a car park. It was Jeremy Bowen.
It was Jeremy Bowen,
the contender for the Nobel Peace Prize, who said that it was from Israel, and that went round the world, and it caused riots, it caused demonstrations. That itself globalized the Intifada.
It did. He stoked the fuel. He really fueled the fires and
so it's false reporting.
It is
from BBC Verify, and then 15th of Jan, 2025.
Yeah, a new ceasefire, hostage prisoner exchange deal, And do you remember there was 6 weeks exchange of hostages and Palestinian prisoners? And in exchange of every one hostage, there was a slew of prisoners. And these prisoners were murderers. Some of them had actually killed other Palestinians, not always Israelis.
Yeah.
So
and then that came to an end. It went into effect on 19th of January after a delay over whether Hamas would provide hostage names, and then Hamas renewed attacks. Right, okay, so that's a little bit of background. Thank you, by the way. I can see your emails coming in, really appreciate that. But what we're going to do first, before reading some of your emails, is try and quickly summarize what has been agreed thus far. And as I say, it's fast moving. I've got an earpiece here to alert me to updates, but let's go. So this isn't real time, this is a few hours old. What's been agreed, Mandy?
The Israeli military position, so the IDF, the army, will withdraw to a line controlling around 53% of Gaza. This is described by the White House as the first of 3 stages of withdrawal. The Israeli military says it's preparing to transition to adjusted deployment lines. So there are 3 lines, and this is the first of the lines. And so basically, this evening, the cabinet met. Following the cabinet meeting, there was a government meeting. They were going to vote on the deal. One of the cabinet members is believed to perhaps, we haven't had any confirmation yet, so we perhaps can't say, but it's possible that one will vote against it. From the coalition.
But he has said that's Ben Gvir, I think. He has said that he won't pull down the government on this issue, but he will vote against it.
He'll vote against it.
That's fair enough. So let's keep going. Have you read through them?
I have read through.
Because I was listening to something in my ear at the time. So what's the next part of the deal?
So then, so 24 hours later, then Israel will move back, and from the Palestinian Hamas have 72 hours in which to release all the hostages, those who are alive and those who are deceased. So that means, so today we are Thursday, Friday, the 24 hours are over, so they have Friday to Saturday, Saturday to Sunday, Sunday to Monday. So they have the whole weekend and Monday to release 20 who are presumed to be alive and the bodies of the 28 to be returned.
And just carrying on, the next slide, please, as Chris Whitty would say. In exchange, Israel will release about 250 Palestinian prisoners, serving life sentences, and 1,700 detainees from Gaza. Apparently, it won't include those who are involved in the October 7th attacks, but there will be, obviously, among them, terrorists. Hopefully, no one of the scale of Yahya Sinwar.
No.
And they've also excluded Marwan Barghouti. He was a rabble-rouser from the early days of the Second Intifada.
He's been in jail for about 25 years.
But he could potentially be an interlocutor in the future. So they've always hinted at that. And then
Smotrich visited him in jail recently. And Marwan Barghouti's son was shocked to see his father had aged so much.
Yes, of course.
But Marwan Barghouti is believed to be a successor to
Arafat.
Arafat, exactly. So if he were to be released, it would be bad news, and he's not going to be released. So I was very pleased to hear that today.
Israel will also return the bodies of 15 Gazans for each Israeli hostage, as outlined in Trump's plan.
These are people who've been through the Israeli courts, who have been convicted of murder. So that's who's being released.
And then also humanitarian aid. Hundreds of aid trucks will enter Gaza daily. A UN-backed report confirmed famine in August. I wouldn't trust the UN as far as I could throw, their statue of the sword being beaten into a plowshare, and that's a pretty big statue. Trump's plan, 600 truckloads per day. Palestinian sources, minimum 400 trucks daily, increasing gradually. That's what they're saying.
Now, here's the propaganda that says they haven't had enough aid. The aid has not stopped at all. The aid has been flowing throughout the last 2 years, and there's been more than enough food. More than enough food. For those who have had shortages of food, it's not because the aid hasn't gone in. It's because Hamas has stolen the aid and only given it to its own militants, or it has sold it on the black market at exorbitant prices.
Yeah, exactly. I'm going to read some of your emails and texts now. Eddie, you've got in first. The reason Donald Trump's peace deal is no cause for celebration is simple. It will not bring peace. It is based on a fundamental misunderstanding or willful refusal to understand why Hamas is fighting. That is a very good point, Eddie. And we've shown, I think, on the channel this morning and yesterday, how it is a religious war as far as they're concerned. So it's not a land war. It's not going to be solved by money, Bill Clinton or Tony Blair's money. There are deep-seated religious reasons why they're attacking Israel. And we have here on the screen Trump in one of his cabinet meetings. I'm not sure whether we've had Marco Rubio come. Yeah, Marco Rubio whispered in his ear, and then Trump announced, that peace is coming to the Middle East. The next one is from Marilyn in Revelation 1 verses 1 to 3, or Revelation 1 verses 3, or 1 to 3. The revelation of Jesus Christ, which God gave him to show his servant things which must shortly take place, and he sent and signified it by his angel to his servant John, who bore witness to the word of God and to the testimony of Jesus Christ, to all things that he saw. Blessed is he who reads and those who hear the word of the prophecy and keep those things which are written in it, for the time is near. Keep reading, my brothers and sisters, Marilyn writes. And there was a prayer for healing there, but we'll try and stick on topic. And we do have programs, for instance, prayer time live at 12:30 on most weekdays, if not all weekdays, which Pam leads. This is from Mr. I'm not sure if it's a real or pseudonym, so I won't read out your name because it looks like a pseudonym. I'm happy and praise the Lord that peace has come to Gaza and the war might be over. Hamas will be dealt with for coming against the Jews, as was Germany dealt with for trying to wipe out the Jews. Yahweh will not suffer people who bring harm or attack the Jews. I state now and forever, I stand with the Jewish people and the seed of Abraham. May they be blessed forever. Dear Mandy and Tim, I'll read a couple more, and because I'm sure they're all going to come in and we won't get through them. Dear Mandy and Tim, we love you, so unique. You're a unique, informative and enlightening program. The Lord bless and keep you and your families in Yeshua's name. Where does the Gaza ceasefire sit in biblical chronology, giving consideration to the Battle of Armageddon? This is for love from Ballymena, Norleen and Stephen. I'm not sure we're going to get into that yet because we've got so much updating to do on what is literally happening real time today, but we might later in the program, so stay tuned because maybe there will be others writing. I mean, Marilyn was hinting at something when she wrote from Revelation. Just a little comment.
Yes, I was just going to pick up one of the comments that God is the judge, and thank you, Lord, that you are the judge, because these murderers are going to be given an amnesty. Can you believe that? But they will not be given an amnesty in Gaza or in Israel. They are going to another country. We don't yet know where, possibly Turkey, but then, unlike the Nuremberg trials, where the Nazis did face justice, these killers and terrorists will not be facing a secular justice. But they will tremble before the Lord when that day comes.
One email here from Lynn before we go back to the maps. Maps are all important in the Middle East. Lynn says, what a blessing to have you both on Rev TV. One question though, was it not Tom Bateman from the BBC who reported on the Al-Shifa hospital? I think, Lynn, it was John Denniman. But the chap who really stoked the fire, so to speak, was our friend Jeremy Bowen. It wasn't the Al-Shifa hospital, it was the
Al-Ahli.
That was the one where this Islamic Jihad missile hit the car park and a number of cars caught fire. And then, as they do, the world's media said there's been a massacre, they've attacked the hospital, which is Israel.
What they did with What they did with BBC Verify is that they verified that it really was a missile that had fallen, that it wasn't a computer game, a computer-generated image.
Yeah.
So in that respect, that was correct in that it was a real missile that fell. It wasn't a computer-generated image.
Yeah.
The people were real. They were not artificial
But
intelligence.
it was saying that Israel had fired
Correct,
the missile.
but that was completely false.
Well,
and they did not really gather their information.
And there
correctly.
wasn't really a full, mea culpa apology from Jeremy Bowen.
Not at
I
all.
heard it. It was, oh yeah, okay, fair enough. So now we're looking at maps. This is the damaged areas, Mandy. This was taken the 2nd of October 2025. The source is the BBC.
Yep.
Who else?
Just a week
And
ago.
it does show, obviously, very large areas of Gaza City, which is more recent, Rafah, and, right across Gaza.
Yes, and I have also seen a map which we are not able to show you tonight because we only there wasn't time to add this map, but we know that the population of Gaza is about 2 million people, and they were spread across the whole Gaza Strip. Now, the map that I saw shows you how the population of 2 million has been moved down south, occupying only 20%. Okay. 20% of the area. So much for being the most densely populated place on Earth.
They
right?
have managed to relocate them.
Yeah.
Which was always Israel's intention, that they would minimize civilian casualties. So they warned them. In the early days, I remember how Hamas was blocking the road south and was shooting at its own people. It reminds me of the Soviets, at Stalingrad or in the war against the Nazis. Anyone who hesitated, they shot.
Yeah, but they're still doing that in Gaza City. They're stopping people from leaving, even though the IDF, their Arabic speaker, is working full time trying to get them to evacuate.
So the next map is important because part of the peace plan of Trump is that Israel will withdraw. So it makes sense to say, what is the current position of current control? By the way, this line is probably moving as we speak.
It is.
But just describe that blue line there.
Okay, the blue line is where the IDF are at the moment, and they've already started moving back to that blue line, and in the next 24 hours, so it's the current blue, yes, according to President Trump and his map, and the pink area that you see, the reddish pink area that you see, that's the IDF control according to the United Nations.
Yeah.
But so that's the first line of withdrawal.
And by the way, when we say Trump, I mean it is the whole team of Trump,
course,
because
of
I'm not
course.
sure he's going around with a marker pen. So here we have the next map, which is the initial withdrawal of Israeli troops following hostage release. So this is where they would move back to, proposed, as it were. Boundaries were approximate, based on broad sketches from the Trump administration. So this is after the release of hostages, which is anticipated Monday, Tuesday.
Correct.
Yeah.
So after that, then they will continue to move back. And there's one further line in the next map where they move to the third line.
The black line.
The black line, that is the second withdrawal once the ISF has been mobilized and the terms of the deal have been met.
So just if I recap, the blue line is the current position, according to the Trump administration, probably roughly there. The red line is the initial withdrawal of Israeli troops following hostage release. That could be next week. And then the second withdrawal is once the ISF, that's the International Security Force, is mobilized and Trump's terms are met. So Israel will still want to, let's say, east and north and south of that black line, they will still want to have a buffer zone.
And that's what comes in the next map. There will be a buffer zone, the whole perimeter of Gaza. And but what they're left with that is 53%. So Israel will have control of 53% of the Gaza Strip.
Yeah.
And that really matters. In the meantime, after the hostages have been released, if Hamas violates any of the terms of the deal, then Israel has the complete backing and guarantees of the US administration to be able to retaliate.
Let's just have one more slide before we go to a video, and that is the IDF chief, Eyal Samir. He toured Gaza ahead of the expected ceasefire, praising soldiers for achieving a political achievement through their operations. He said the army will complete its missions on the ground before the truce takes effect, urging troops to remain alert and ensure a measured, professional and orderly transition to ceasefire once approved by Israel's cabinet. It has to be said at this stage, before we even get to our video, that Hamas are not accepting that it's a ceasefire, and they're saying that it's the end of the war. Quite significant. I think that, you know, the rump of Hamas, the militant terrorists, would like an end to the war, I'm sure, but that it remains to be seen. Let's watch this video. It is Gideon Saar. He works, if I'm correct, this is the video of the Israeli foreign minister. And he is talking about the peace plan. Let's watch this for a minute, and we'll read some more of your emails.
We will first have a ceasefire. Immediately after the decision will be approved by the government, there will be a ceasefire. And then the commitment within 72 hours of Hamas to release all the hostages. I believe that that should bring the end to this war. The first withdrawal or redeployment will happen immediately in order to make the first phase happen. And we will do that immediately after the decision of the government within 24 hours. With regard to other parts, they are conditional. There are parts that Hamas must do. It's not that only Israel should implement. Israel should do things, but there are parts Hamas must do. Hamas must disarm. We should dismantle Gaza Strip. We should implement all parts of Trump's plan.
That's very helpful. I'm just going to give you more detail from the senior Hamas official who's said the group declares an end to the war today, claiming it marks the start of a permanent ceasefire. Khalil al-Hayya, who survived Israel's strike on Hamas officials in Qatar last month. We remember that well, and we'll talk about that in a minute. He said the agreement includes opening the Rafah crossing in both directions. We declare today, he says, that we have reached an agreement to end the war and the aggression against our people. Al-Hayya said in a speech this evening. Speaking in Sharm el-Sheikh, Al-Hayya told Egypt's Kahara TV, Hamas wanted solid guarantees from Trump and mediators that the war will not return. He added the deal will lead to the release of all jailed Palestinian women and children. Could we just talk about that attack in Doha?
Yes.
Because the world's media says, like, sort of ha ha ha, laughing up their sleeve, Israel missed. But what do you think was going on?
Number one, they did not miss. They did not miss for more than one reason. One, they weren't going to annihilate the entire Hamas negotiating team, the senior Hamas negotiating team. Khalil al-Hayya's son was killed, but he himself was not killed. Second of all, if Israel was able to infiltrate Iranian airspace, which is such a long distance, thousands of miles away from Israel, and to kill people in their bedrooms, gather the scientists and the senior military personnel of the Iranian the Quds Force, the IRGC, and kill them. If they could kill Hassan Nasrallah in his bunker, if they could have
deep underground,
and if they could have, with all these pages, remember with the pages,
1,500
and they planned this a long time in advance, so they did not miss in Qatar.
So it was a warning shot.
In Doha. It was a warning shot.
Almost like when Reagan bombed Gaddafi's home. It was a warning shot. Do you remember in the 1980s?
Because Qatar has been funding Hamas. So Qatar is a very rich little country. So what they've done is they fund Al Jazeera. Al Jazeera is the mouthpiece for Hamas. and other Muslim Brotherhood organizations and movements, and because Qatar is very pro-Muslim Brotherhood, and this is why Qatar, or Saudi Arabia and Qatar fell out several years ago, because of Qatar's continued terrorist activities, and so they broke any accords or whatever that they had together. They were no longer on friendly terms. So that's Qatar. But of course, President Trump has been extremely clever, and of course he knew what Netanyahu was going to do.
Yeah.
Netanyahu would not have done that without the backing of Trump.
Yeah.
So, but of course, for the sake of the peace,
it's sort of catalyzed the whole process.
Yes, it has. That was all designed.
Good.
To do that.
So thanks for that. Now, Paul and Ruth have written, thank you very much. We're so grateful for the peace opportunity that has taken place regarding President Trump's attempt to achieve peace, but there are so many complications regarding this. China's Belt and Road Initiative, Ukraine being armed with Tomahawk missiles, so many global issues that need prayer. The prisoner exchange for Israel's hostages is hardly a fair exchange. It allows Hamas to regroup. We cannot see an end to the games that Hamas plays. I would say in response, Paul and Ruth, that there's a diminishing, I wouldn't overplay Hamas's hand. You know, as I said earlier, they've run out of buildings that they can throw people off the top of to start with. Their tunnels are pretty well debris above, and we'll be looking at the tunnels later. They would not be agreeing to anything unless their backs were against the wall. Exactly.
The Qataris have obliged Hamas to sign this deal. And the reason is, when Israel proved that it could enter Qatari airspace and attack people inside Qatar, that scared them. It shows Iran, which is the enemy, that Iran could easily attack Qatar if it wanted to. Therefore, President Trump was able to put pressure on Qatar and say, I will supply you with security, right, with our airbase, because they have an airbase in Qatar, right on the coast there, and we will protect you, we will supply you with arms, and this is what Saudi Arabia has had to pay billions of dollars for, but Qatar are getting it for free. Well, not exactly for free in terms of money, but they're having to put pressure on Hamas to sign this deal. And even Al Jazeera has toned down its language under orders from its masters.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so have we got more to show? Yes. What will happen next? These are our following slides. And I have to say thank you again to Nathan for all the hard work in compiling this whole running order of slides. What will happen next? Trump's Gaza peace plan, key provisions. Mandy.
So the 20-point plan begins with an initial phase, followed by negotiations over later stages. As we've already said, 24 hours, then 72, and then the rest will take time. If both sides accept the proposal, the war would end immediately. And they have already said that. So the breaking news this evening was that President Trump said the peace deal has been signed.
Yeah.
So now people have to stick to that peace deal, the terms of the peace deal.
So on demilitarization and security, 3 points, Mandy?
Well, Gaza would be fully demilitarized. All military terror and offensive infrastructure would be destroyed. Gaza would be governed by a temporary transitional committee of Palestinian technocrats.
Overseen by none other than Tony Blair.
Tony Blair,
even
friend or
Trump
foe.
Himself.
Trump will be chairman of the Board of Peace, as they call it.
Yeah.
And he's appointed Tony Blair. Tony Blair wanted to be the one who runs it, but Trump said, no, I will oversee it. Yeah. You can run it. And Tony Blair didn't have to go very far to Sharm el-Sheikh because he has a villa in Sharm el-Sheikh.
Yeah.
So, and he
is, just while we're talking about Tony Blair, you know, he was heavily involved with Bill Clinton and the peace process. Of course, it started under John Major, but then, of course, we had the war with George Bush Jr., W, and then Blair was very much involved in the Iraq War.
He was.
So
He was.
It's interesting, but when he resigned, he became the envoy to the quartets, which was the UN, the United States, the EU, and can't remember the fourth. But he really does have a lot of experience of efforts at peacemaking in the Middle East.
He has a lot of contacts with wealthy contacts, let's put it that way. He himself is wealthy, and he does have a lot of contacts. But from a Middle Eastern point of view, they're not happy about that because they see him as having colluded to create the war in Iraq and then to have created a vacuum after the fall of Saddam Hussein.
Yeah.
So and
the regime change was all part of the hubris of what they achieved in Sierra Leone and then in Bosnia, Herzegovina, and so he thought he was on a roll and he could do the same with Iraq, but it backfired.
But because of that vacuum, Iran then came in, and now all of Iraq is part of the Shia crescent that Iran has been building, a crescent around Israel.
So what will happen next? Hamas and the amnesty, what's that?
Well, Hamas would have no future role in Gaza's governance, directly or indirectly. Hamas members would be offered amnesty if they agree to peaceful coexistence, and I'll say something about that in a moment, and those refusing could be granted safe passage to another country. Peaceful coexistence.
Yes, go on.
That's not part of their vocabulary. Okay, they do not believe in, unless suddenly the Jews were all to convert to Islam, that is not part of their that is not their charter, that is not their mindset, that is not their strategy.
But at least you can say that they are not as duplicitous as Arafat and the Palestinian National Council, who pretended that they wanted peaceful coexistence, and they all were there with Clinton. I think it was at Sharm el-Sheikh, but it may have been another place in the Sinai. And all clapping, yes, we've withdrawn it. And then Arafat goes back in Arabic and says we're going to have Shaheeds marching all the way to Jerusalem.
Yes.
So a forked tongue, say one thing to the Western media in English and something else in Arabic.
Absolutely.
We've got 3 more on this, what will happen next. No Gazan civilian will be forced to leave the Gaza Strip. Those who wish to leave will be free to return, and a Trump economic development plan will be launched to rebuild and revitalize Gaza's economy, guided by a panel of experts.
The most important thing before the rebuilding is the re-education of all, not just all Gazans, but everybody in Judea and Samaria, otherwise known as the West Bank.
Absolutely.
That is the most important thing. But the whole Middle East, because you can speak to any Middle Easterner in the Gulf states, and they will say to you that when they are taught at school history or religious studies, they are taught that this land belongs to the Palestinians, it's called Palestine, the Jews have stolen it. It's very hateful language. So it's not just in Gaza, it's widespread.
It is, and it's throughout our schools and university campuses, but that's another subject. We're going to go to another short video. Reagan King, our colleague, has sent this from Jerusalem, and it's Hanaya Naftali. He's an Israeli influencer and digital aide to the Prime Minister, and we'll read some more of your emails and texts after this video.
Good morning and shalom from Jerusalem. So we all woke up to news that we see this deal that has been reached between Israel and Hamas. This deal basically says that Hamas will release all of the hostages within 72 hours. However, Israel, as part of this deal, is going to withdraw. This deal is going to have several phases. The first phase is that the Israeli military is going to withdraw to a specific line inside the Gaza Strip. At one point, Israel is also going to release about 2,000 Palestinian terrorists from prisons. However, the Israelis refused to release the Nukhba terrorists that participated in this massacre, also refusing to release the top 4 terrorists that are being held currently in Israeli prison. We have a lot of mixed feelings here in Israel, but mostly joy that we will finally see our captives free, the hostages back home. It's just unthinkable that we are dealing with a terrorist organization that held bodies of Jews, refusing to let them out, and at the same time holding civilians hostage for more than 700 days. So that's what we're currently seeing, and we hope to see our hostages very, very quickly, soon, back in their families' arms.
Yes, so here we have Naftali, Hanaya Naftali, and I'm going to read some of your emails as promised. Jeanette says, I'm so pleased the hostages are getting released, but I still don't trust Hamas and don't believe they will do the right thing. Let's keep praying that the hostages are released. Exactly the point, Jeanette. And from Kathleen, I pray this plan goes through. My heart goes out to Benjamin Netanyahu. What must it be like to look the devil in the eye, Hamas? God help him and watch over Israel and the Jewish people all over the world. Wake up, churches, and speak out and let the Jewish people see and hear from you. Deb writes, to be humane, we have to start with ourselves. A very good point. A very good point, because evil can rise up within us, and the devil's so clever, he can whip up hatred on both sides, and we can all be dragged into the pit. Just seen in a clip that Kushner, Donald Trump's son-in-law, is back in the mix regarding this part of the peace talks. That's an anonymous texter. Thank you for that. Is it not true that both Sunni and Shia Muslims are compelled by the Quran to entirely cleanse all Jews from Israel so the return of the Mahdi can happen? Therefore, a permanent ceasefire, according to Islamic doctrine, seems impossible. That's from Stephen.
Well, according to the Quran, the land of Israel belongs to the children of Israel. It's repeated several times, the children of Israel, the children of Israel, the children of Israel. It does not belong, the Quran does not mention Palestinians once. At all. Yeah. And and even Jerusalem, apart from Muhammad's trip one night on a horse to Jerusalem, Jerusalem was in the Quran is not considered as a holy. Today,
they even within that dream, which was a dream, it just talked about the faraway place.
Exactly.
And now, you know, retrospectively, they said, it's there in Jerusalem.
And they're saying it's the third most holy. But not only that, but all the Qiblas in all mosques do not point towards Mecca nor Jerusalem. They point towards Petra. So no, Jerusalem is not holy. But the Mahdi, if you look at the Mahdi has exactly the same attributes as the Antichrist in our Bible.
Yeah, shocking, isn't it? So let's go back to today. We know there's a lot ahead, and this is talking about the challenges in this Trump peace plan. Hamas, one of the challenges, Hamas, just give you a break, Mandy. Hamas refuses to disarm, saying it would only do so once a Palestinian state has been established. That is one of the challenges ahead. And it is, again, I wouldn't overplay Hamas's hand. You know, of course, wicked devils will refuse to disarm, but they are greatly diminished in number.
Yes. And
they need to be hunted down by this international security force.
Just as ISIS has been diminished, and they were powerful and dominating the Syria and Iraq in the Levant, or ISIL, likewise Hamas will, this is going to cause the demise of Hamas.
Yeah. It's a little bit like the Brexit debate in the media, where they made the EU out to be this almighty, you know, all-powerful body, and we had to sort of grovel to them and kowtow to them. And will they agree with this aspect or that aspect? No, we're leaving. Okay? And you've got to be decisive, and I think that's what Trump and Netanyahu have achieved in a big way. The next bullet is a point, if you excuse the phrase. Hamas expects a role in Gaza's future despite Trump's plan excluding it. Well, even Yvette Cooper tonight has said there's no place for Hamas in the future of Gaza.
No, there isn't. And even their own financiers are saying there isn't any room for them.
Yeah. Another challenge, or it's been presented as a challenge, Netanyahu will reject a Palestinian Authority involvement.
He's already said that.
Yes, and quite justifiably so.
Yes. And in fact, if there were elections today in the West Bank, then Hamas would win, by the way.
Yeah.
Because there is still Hamas in the West Bank. They're getting rid of Hamas in Gaza, but not Hamas in the West Bank.
So they're the cause. In one sense, they were the ones, through their corruption, financial corruption, Arafat, Erekat, and many others, who gave rise to Hamas.
Indeed, indeed. And in fact, so the Palestinian Authority, the way it is today, cannot, and this is coming from Palestinians themselves, who are moderate, who are saying that no, you cannot have the PA in charge of Gaza or anywhere else.
Now we have the other challenge, which is Israel will initially retain 53% of Gaza, with later withdrawals to 40% and 15%, leaving a security perimeter until Gaza is deemed safe. But no timeline has been set for full withdrawal.
It could be months or years, because it's going to take a very long time to rebuild Gaza. It's not just rebuilding Gaza. They're going to have to destroy all the tunnels. There is a network greater than the London Underground, yet Gaza does not have the same surface area as the London Underground.
Yeah.
It's extremely, and speaking of tunnels.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a bit of B-roll, actually. We can look first at the map, which is showing the extent of the tunnels, the terrorist infrastructure located adjacent to the Jordanian hospital in Gaza City. This is showing all the regions of Gaza, but here we are. There we have a tunnel route that has been located. We know there's over 300 miles of tunnels. And if we zoom in further, we can see that this is, in fact, the Jordanian hospital. So the world's outraged that Israel should be attacking the Jordanian hospital. But what's underground? A Hamas outpost.
More than that, it's a factory,
Yeah.
a weapons factory, where they have been manufacturing weapons. They have been missiles, they have been manufacturing RPGs, which is rocket-propelled grenades, IEDs, which is improvised explosive devices.
That's it.
And,
So it's a complete military terrorist infrastructure underground. It's
one of many.
It's not just a little sort of tunnel, under the beach or something. This is showing the lathe, so it's complete underground. It's almost mimicking. It's amazing how they mimic, in the Israeli War of Independence, how they had underground bullet factories to hide from the British. But look at this. It's complete armories there within this tunnel infrastructure.
Look how well built these tunnels are.
Yeah.
Because they're deep underground.
Yeah.
And that's where they've also...
I mean, it's pretty miserable, isn't it? But
That's where they've
just
kept-
imagine.
Yeah, I was going to say, that's where they've kept quite a few of the hostages in the tunnels, so they haven't
Yes.
seen daylight at all for
absolutely.
2 years.
Yeah, we've hardly talked about that, and I'm sure we will talk about the hostages when they're released.
Yes, yes.
God willing. So it's. I can't quite imagine, these tunnels. Some of them trucks could drive into, and some of them you're walking within. But just imagine walking through the whole of the London Underground. And they're saying, oh, well, why can't they find the terrorists? Why can't they find the hostages? That's quite an infrastructure. And they haven't found it all yet.
But you can see where the billions have been spent.
Some of them, and others have gone into the pockets of some of these.
Living in Zaus and
Qatar.
Braus.
Yeah, exactly. That's quite amazing, actually. There is a bit of a question mark. So Trump said to some of the hostage families on the phone, I think this morning our time, maybe in last night their time, that it would be Monday, the release. I hear that he said it may be Monday or Tuesday. This is very Trumpian. Yeah. But there is certainly an expectation that it will be next week, yes, the release of the hostage.
And that'll fall on Simchat Torah, because they have a lunar calendar in Israel, and that'll be the second anniversary. So although the 7th of October is the second anniversary in the Gregorian calendar, the 2 years will be, it was Simchat Torah when this massacre happened, and it'll be Simchat Torah Monday, Tuesday. Because of course with the Hebrew calendar you go from one evening to the next evening rather than from a morning to the night.
Yeah, and I think it would be quite good to have a look at what some world leaders have been saying, one of whom is our Prime Minister Keir Starmer, and he's speaking from India, I think, where he's having a summit with Narendra Modi. So let's listen to Keir Starmer.
I will take this opportunity to put on record my thanks to President Trump for his leadership on this, to the Qataris, to Egypt and Turkey, who've done really important work in the negotiations. It is a relief to the world, and I think particularly of the hostages who've been held a very long time and their families, and to all the civilians in Gaza who've been so affected by this conflict. And so it does now need to be implemented. And as for the next stages, we, the UK, stand ready to work with others on implementing the next stages, which are set out in the plan, but it is a really important step that's been reached here, and that's why I strongly welcome it.
So it's great that Keir Starmer is welcoming it, not least because he preempted it and nearly screwed the whole thing up by declaring a fictional Palestinian state.
Yes, even before the French and the others. But a few countries who are civilized did not. So New Zealand did not, and Croatia, is it Croatia? Yes, I think it was Croatia.
And I think Germany.
Germany has not, no. So, yeah, definitely. We're glad, of course, that he approves.
Yeah, so one more very short extract from the many interviews and discussions on the networks, and this is GB News interviewing Israel's Deputy Foreign Minister Sharon Haskell as she reacts to the Gaza peace deal.
Unfortunately, this current government haven't been productive in helping to create stability and peace. During the last negotiations, such a sensitive time, they have declared with Macron that they will acknowledge and recognize the Palestinian state. Hamas has thanked them. If a terrorist organization like Hamas is going up and thanking you, you must understand you're on the wrong side of history. So this is one thing that actually pushed further any kind of a possibility for peace, for negotiation. It's been very, very difficult. And the other thing is that with this massive immigration coming from Muslim countries from the Middle East, importing with them those traditions of demonizing Israel, demonizing Jews, not assimilating into the society, that has put in danger the Jewish community, but not just. What we've seen in the last 2 years with those hate marches and those celebration of Hamas in your street, people that are waving Hamas's flag. Hamas is a proscribed terrorist organization in the UK. How come there's no enforcement of the law in those marches in the UK?
Absolutely outstanding. I couldn't have said it better. I garbled it at the beginning of this programme. Well done, Sharon Haskell. She's the Deputy Foreign Minister of Israel. That's what we are up against. And, you know, frankly, if Starmer wants to have Hamas as his friends, you know, who needs enemies? It's absurd of what they did in kowtowing to Hamas's agenda and then having Hamas praising them for what they have done.
Yes, he has literally stoked the fires of hatred and anti-Semitism. But he's, of course, as everybody has realized by now, that it's all about the Muslim vote in his constituency and other constituencies.
Exactly. So, another constituency is France. And if you look at this, the Paris talks on Gaza peace plan, this is, again, it's posturing of the most grotesque kind. French President Emmanuel Macron hosts talks in Paris with the UK, Germany, Spain and Arab states to discuss the next phase of Trump's 20-point peace plan. I would just say, just mind your own business, Macron.
Well, first of all, they've had nothing to do with it. Second of all, the reason he's had to do that is because France is collapsing economically. So what do you do when your country's
distract?
You distract, you go onto the international stage. And this is what Starmer has done. When there is so much worry and concern about the economy in our country, but you have Keir Starmer with this trip to India, and apparently there were great big billboards featuring Keir Starmer and Narendra Modi for this deal, this trade deal.
Yeah. And a couple more texts here. This is from Julie in North Wales. Thank the Lord that the hostages are to be released soon. But what state are the poor souls going to be in? And may the Lord give them the strength to recover from their horrible ordeal. I did hear this evening that Israel is going to be paying a stipend to all of the released hostages. It was 60,000 shekels. You know, they're going to look after them at the very least, and obviously look after their mental and physical well-being.
Yes, yes.
But that's ahead, and of course we still pray they will be released. And this is also just an anonymous saying, thank you, Tim and Mandy, for being at the forefront with courage, informing us all of these world events.
Well,
thank you, Mandy. I mean, it's good.
Tim.
It's good to cover these very important subjects as they're happening.
It's a privilege to be here on this Christian TV station, supporting Israel, and so that really matters. But I wanted to say something about Eli Sharabi, the hostage who's just been released, who's released a book called Hostage, who says it's all about life. He doesn't want to be focusing on any negativity.
Yeah, thank you. Well, as we speak, the Israeli cabinet is still discussing the peace plan. You know, we're hopeful that there will be a positive outcome, but not, you know, if Israel is going to lose its shirt, so to speak. So we're in our last minute, Mandy.
It proves that they're a democracy, that they're debating it, and that he's not a dictator, Netanyahu. So they are discussing it going through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Absolutely. And so I'll end as I began. Let's pray for the peace of Jerusalem, and remember that this peace that we're praying for, you know, has only just begun, and we need to win the peace. And part of winning the peace is winning the propaganda war, I'm afraid. And it is a war. And we pray that truth will prevail, and we'll do our best to do that.
Amen.
Mandy, thank you so much for your sort of expert inside, you know, knowledge of the Middle East. And thank you all for your emails. Sorry that I couldn't read them all out. Sorry for the person who's asking about prayer, but plenty of options. And write into the office, and we will pray, as we will pray for the peace of Jerusalem. Thank you so much. Bless you.